Okay, so it is currently 2 days later. Ran into some obstacles with the car. So this is what we're working with currently. So as you guys can see, the RPF ones are not on the SRT4 anymore. I'm going to be letting them go for good. They've probably been on here for the last 2.5 years. Reason being, I showed you guys, I'm trying to sit this wheel up. Reason being is because I showed you guys these spacers that we bought. These spacers are 5x100, just like the ones that came off of it. But for some reason, these lugs or studs do not line up with the 5x100 lugs that are on the actual wheel. RPF ones, I probably will come back to another set, a different spec, so I don't have to run a spacer if I don't want to. And then maybe a smaller radius as well wheel with a bigger tire. So we'll just make our way back to some RPF one. We're gonna go ahead and get back into it today. We're gonna get these axle nuts and washers thrown on. Just wanna make sure everything is done right this time. And as well, I noticed my tie rod end was stripped as I was putting it back on the driver's side. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that replaced as well. Looking much better than this old ugly thing. We have our bearing. Before we get it pulled apart, just look at all that play. Once again, this is the side that I never changed. I was only changing my driver's side. And I believe that this side, being as bad as it is, was putting more stress on that driver's side. So before we actually get that bearing out, I have to bang this hub out of the back. You can run a hub pull. It doesn't make any difference. Regardless if you hub pull this out or bang it out, it's still going to pull that inner race off on the inside of the hub. So that's why we got brand new hubs. Alrighty, hub is installed, no play, and she spins. This took me a lot longer than it should have. I had to take this spindle out. I didn't record it because I kind of panicked, but I had to take the spindle out and actually grind out some of it on the inner from the previous bearing. Being pressed in, it kind of raised certain portions of the inside. So I went ahead and dremeled that down. And I actually had a hard time getting the bearing in until I flipped it, and then it went in with no issue. I've never experienced that even on the other side. I usually try to get the lettering that's on the back of the bearing, or I consider that to be the back of the bearing. I try to get that in first, but for some reason this side wanted that lettering first and it slid right in. So progress. Time to get this side thrown back together. So I am ending the video here. I have been fighting with this car for the last 2.5, 3 hours, trying to keep my calm. This brake, as you can clearly see, is rubbing. It was not doing that before the bearing install. I don't know why it's doing it now. I've double checked the bearing. I've double checked the hub. The hub is all the way in the bearing. The bearing's all the way in the spindle. So it is just going to be our caliper itself. But we are done here for the day. This is where we're leaving off, and I will see you guys in another video once we get that caliper.